Nothing else makes me feel high. She's like such a light. It's good. Something about a chain I stayed by.
Hello everyone. For our field trip study, the main purpose was to enhance our knowledge of ecological research and conservation efforts. In class, we usually learn about biodiversity through books and lecture, but this trip gave us the chance to see it in real life. It's very different when you're standing in a forest, observing species directly, and realizing how everything connects in an ecosystem. We wanted to gain exposure to actual conservation activities and understanding how organizations protect Malaysia's natural heritage. Another aim was to learn about the role of Institute of Biodiversity, or IBD, in safeguarding species and habitat. By being there, we didn't just read about conservation, we experienced it firsthand, which made the lesson more meaningful and memorable. Now, about the Institute of Biodiversity Tengku Hassanal in Pahang, it's not just a research center, but also a hub for documentation, education, and awareness. The Institute plays a vital role in promoting conservation through research projects, biodiversity surveys, and outreach programs. They also collaborate with universities and NGOs to strengthen conservation efforts. Visiting IBD gives us a deeper appreciation of the dedication behind protecting wildlife. It reminded us that conservation isn't only about saving animals, it's about maintaining balance in ecosystem and ensuring future generations can enjoy Malaysian natural wonders. Without centers like IBD, many species could face even greater risk of extinction. So overall, combining the purpose of our trip with the role of IBD, we can see how important it is to have both knowledge and actions. This experience shows us that conservation requires continuous efforts, research, and awareness, and that everyone has a role to play in protecting biodiversity.
So we are continuing for our objective for this case study. So our trip had four main objectives. The first one is to increase the awareness of wildlife conservation because the understanding is the most important to protecting the species, and it is the first step forward action. Second, our objective is to study the Malaysian tiger through direct observation, which is we can see this endangered animal up close was a rare opportunity to find it. The third, our objective is to gain the first-hand learning experience outside the classroom, which is allow use to connect the theory with the practice. And finally, the last objective is to develop the appreciation for the biodiversity. So these objectives are not just word on paper. They guide our activity and shape the way we approach the trip. For example, when observing the tiger, we were not just admiring its beauty. We were thinking about its role in the ecosystem and the threat it faced. When identifying plant and animal, we were not just taking bones. We were learning how each species contribute to the biodiversity. Each objective added value to our learning and made the experience more impactful. By the end of the trip, we realized that this goal had been achieved, and they gave us a stronger sense of responsibility toward the conversation.
One of the highlights of the trip was observing the Malayan tiger. This species is critically endangered, and seeing it in person was both exciting and eye-opening. The tiger's bright orange fur with black stripes is not only beautiful, but also serves as camouflage in the forest. As a carnivore, it feeds mainly on deer, wild boar, and smaller animals, showing its role as a top predator in the ecosystem. Watching the tiger helped us understand how it survived in the wild and why it's so important to protect its habitat. It was a reminder that every species has a role in maintaining ecological balance. We also learned that the Malayan tiger is a symbol of Malaysia's natural heritage. Protecting it means protecting part of our identity as a nation. Seeing the tiger up close made us realize how fragile its existence is and how urgent conservation efforts are to ensure it doesn't disappear forever. Beyond its appearance, we observe the tiger's behavior. It is a strong and solitary animal, spending much of its time resting, walking around its enclosure, and marking territory. Its sharp claws, powerful legs, and strong teeth make it an effective hunter. But we also learn about the challenges it faces. The Malayan tiger population is shrinking due to habitat loss and illegal hunting. This reality made our observation more meaningful. We were not just looking at an animal, we were witnessing a species fighting for survival. It emphasized the urgent need for conservation to protect this national treasure before it disappears. The tiger's behavior reminded us that even the strongest animals are vulnerable when their environment is destroyed. Protecting them means protecting the forest, rivers, and ecosystem they depend on.
This trip gave us a valuable knowledge and skills. We learned to identify different plant and animals species in their natural habitat, which improve our understanding of biodiversity. We also gained practical fieldwork experience, applying classroom knowledge through observation and identification technique. Another important lesson was understanding ecosystem, seeing how organisms interact with each other and their environment in a forest setting. For example, we saw how plants provide shelter and food for animals, and how predators like a tiger keep population balance. This experience helped us to connect theory with practice, making our learning more complete. It wasn't just about memorizing facts, it was about seeing life in action and appreciating the complexity of nature. This kind of learning stays with us longer because it tied to real experience and memories. One of the biggest takeaways was learning about wildlife conservation effort. We saw how protecting habitat and species is essential for future generations. The trip also made us recognize the impact of human activities on nature. Deforestation, pollution, and hunting all threaten biodiversity, and seeing this issue up close made us more aware of our responsibility. Finally, the experience encouraged us to adopt responsible environment behavior. It inspired us to appreciate nature more deeply and practice conservation in our daily life, whether through small action like reducing waste, recycling, or supporting conservation initiatives. We realized that conservation is not just the job of a scientist or organization. It is something everyone can contribute to. Even small change in our life can make a difference when combined with a larger effort. Overall, impact of the trip was very positive. It increased our interest in biology and conservation, motivating us to learn more about wildlife and environment protection. It also built our confidence in field observation skills, making us more comfortable identifying species and recording data outdoors. Most importantly, it created a memorable and meaningful experience. We gained valuable knowledge, practical practice, and enjoyable memories with classmates. This combination of learning and bonding made the trip special, and it showed us how education can be both fun and impactful when taken outside the classroom. The trip also gave us a sense of responsibility. We realized that protecting biodiversity is not just about science, it's about valuable awareness and action. That's why this experience will stay with us for a long time.
To wrap up, we have several recommendations. First, promote collaboration between wildlife parks, universities, and conservation organizations to strengthen effort. Second, continue conservation programs such as breeding program, habitat protection, and research projects. Third, increase public awareness through campaigns and outreach activities because education is key to change. And finally, encourage visitors to support conservation initiatives, whether by donating, volunteering, or simply spreading awareness. These recommendations highlight that conservation is a shared responsibility and everyone can play a role in protecting biodiversity. If we work together, we can ensure that species like the Malayan tiger and many others continue to survive and thrive in Malaysia's forests.
Nothing else makes me feel high. She's like such a